6:32, and I'm calling the meeting for the Economic Development Committee, December 2nd, 2020.
And I'm going to go ahead and read the virtual meeting information for us to start here. So pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL 30A-18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Hubbardston Economic Development Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town website. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via Zoom. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website a comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting.
Thank you. Okay. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Katie. Hi, Ann. Okay, first we need to approve the minutes from the the October meeting.
I make the
They were-
motion to approve the minutes.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Okay, there we go. Okay. Okay. Can review the agenda. Do we want to do that silently or out loud, or just kind of let's go through it. How's that? Oh, Susan's not here. Shoot.
I haven't seen
Okay.
her. I haven't seen her come in yet. So.
Okay. Well, again, I double checked and she did get the email with the link, and I talked to her yesterday. And I told her that, yes, it was there. What I wanted to do was find out from Susan how she felt her training was coming along and if she felt confident enough to take on some of the responsibilities. And I did talk to Ryan about that yesterday or the day before. And he told me that he felt that, she had a good grasp on things. She had been doing the events calendar and felt that she was doing well. So I was going to put you in touch with her in touch with you, Taryn, so you could start walking her through the steps of, the Facebook page.
Yes.
And of course, we'll, we can either, for a little bit of time, maybe give her some of the content, so she kind of grasps what we're wanting to include. And if she comes up with any content of her own, to pass it by either yourself or me. Before it gets, just for a little bit of time until she has, she really has a grasp of what's happening. So, okay, unfortunately, she's not there, but I think based on what Ryan said, I will go ahead and put the two of you together.
Yeah, no, I think
Okay.
that's good. Yeah, feel free to get her in touch with me or give her my email or phone number is totally fine.
Okay, terrific. Next on the agenda is the cutoff date for the single sponsorship. And we said that we were going to make that decision this month. Does anybody have any thoughts on that? Oh.
I hear somebody.
Okay. I have some thoughts on it. It's a church. Okay, tell you. I have some thoughts on it. First of all, I think that we should probably go ahead and do that at this point. I'm not saying to do the cutoff right now, but I think that we all decided that, it would probably be a good idea, especially since they're going to be responsible for finding that partnership of signage, and we're not going to have our hands in the middle of that. So that would be helpful. My thoughts about putting it, off until, that cutoff point, maybe until February or March, is for a couple of reasons. Number one, the holidays will pass. People will have a better grasp of kind of what their finances are. And also, it's historically during election years, people get very tight or, with their money until the election passes. And it doesn't matter you know, what the decision is, but that's just the way it always happens. You can see that from the stock markets as well. So perhaps that's playing a role in it. And the third reason that I thought we could postpone it, you know, until, you know, like I said, maybe February or March, is because nothing's going in before spring because the ground is already too hard. We're sure getting there. So it's kind of like we're not losing anything being installed by holding this off. So those were the three reasons that I thought that we might be okay making the cutoff for sometime in February or March. And anybody have anything to say about that?
So you're, just so I understand, that you know, we're basically keeping it right now as that it would be a single sponsor per sign. But if by this cutoff we don't have, you know, all
Correct.
the single sponsorships, that we would open it up for people to share a sponsorship. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct. And it's not something, I mean, it's something that I would clearly disclose to people if they, you know, if they talked about it and said, you know, I'm curious about it and what, you know, and mention anything about the cost or like that, you know, it's certainly fine to say, well, you know, we're doing it this way. We're hoping to get full sponsorship, you know, single sponsorship, but we are going to open it up to, you know, to multiple sponsorship or 2 sponsorships, you know, at this point. And it's not that I don't think that anyone is going to, you know, would change their mind from being a single sponsor if they could afford it to being a 1 of 2 sponsor. Do you know what I mean? So it's not, if they made the decision to have that single sponsorship, even if we're offering for them to have 10 others and reduce their price down to nothing, they're not going to jump all over that because they've already made that decision. So it just doesn't hurt to help, doesn't hurt to mention it.
Do we
If
already
somebody
have,
is, you know, mentioned.
we already have people that have come forward as single sponsors?
Yeah, we have the one from Open Door Real Estate in Sterling/Princeton. It's just like when you look on the map, it's in one, and when you get their address, it's another. Yeah, and she contacted me a long time ago. Well, you know, a couple of months ago, and she wants the one on 62 coming in from Barry.
Sounds good. Yeah, I mean,
So we've kind of
I'm okay extending it, you know, a little bit, you know, until February or March, you know, and, you know, give us a little bit more time to talk to people, see what else comes in after the first of the year.
after the holidays.
I still like the idea of single sponsorships better than shared sponsorships. I think it just looks nicer on the signs, but.
Yeah, I think we all do, but you know, if it comes down to it, it's better to have 2 than none. But that's why, you know, that's why we're giving ourselves a little bit more, you know, a little more time. And I think after the holidays, you know, to kind of start reaching out again to folks. And anybody have any comments on that? Is everybody in agreement with that?
So right now we have the 1 sponsor and we're looking for 1 other because we
We're
don't
looking
have
for
the
4 others.
additional signs. Is that right?
We have 2 signs up, and where this woman, where this Tara wants the sign to go, is not where we have one in existence. So we have to build her one.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we would, you know, so the 2 that we have up right now are the 2 most expensive ones because they're the higher trafficked routes.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Katie, do you have any thoughts? Is this something that we need to take a vote on, do you think also?
When in doubt, if you're still keeping it the way it is for another month or 2, I'd leave it alone. You don't need to vote on that, but to change the way you're going to do it later, I would vote on it later.
Okay, so when we're ready to change it over, then we'll take the vote that as of the following month or whatever. Okay. Okay. So there we go. Okay. I can tell this is going to be a short meeting. I have a feeling. Okay.
Well, I think that's all the old business, right?
Say it again.
That's all the old business?
It is. That's pretty good, right?
Oh, yeah.
For now it is. All right, we're going to go on to new business. And we're, you know, everybody took a little bit of a homework assignment on the overlay district. And I did 3 towns because Lori Churchill resigned. And so I took over the town that she was doing. And I will tell you that my findings in Templeton, they have several different districts: industrial, highway, business, residential, agricultural. Their overlay is for marijuana. That's the only overlay they have. Westminster, they have several districts, and their overlay is for cell tower, and another overlay district from the floodplain wetland protection. Okay. And Barry's overlays are the floodplain district and the wellhead protection district. And those are the only overlays they have. And Peter, you
Right.
did Rutland,
I
right?
did Rutland, and I found Rutland to be a very, very business type town because I would say 98% of their zones are multi-use. They have many districts and village centers, and they only have 2 R1 and R2, which are residentials. Then everything else is business: town center district 1, town center district 2, village center district, light industrial office, light industrial, and then the hospital, the 88-acre hospital site, the Heights Plan Development Center, which is multi-zoned for all kinds of stuff except for personal residence. They can do a condo type building for old age home, or a senior living, but no like residential houses in there. So Rutland is very business oriented town for anything, and it's very. The only thing they get stringent on with the home businesses is, the parking and how you have to have so much land and behind the house for your home-based business. But other than that, they're very, very business friendly.
Okay. Okay. So a lot of commercial, pretty much.
Oh, and yes. And then on the home occupations, they can have 3 employees, non-residing employees.
That's opposed to our 1.
Yes.
Ours allows 1, and that's maybe something that we should discuss. I don't know if tonight, but if anybody has any comments they'd like to, talk about tonight about that, that was something that I found interesting as well. How much does it actually impede somebody from opening a home business?
Right.
Hard to tell because from what I've gathered and the list that I have and the people I've spoken to, the home businesses are really small. So I don't think that anyone's saying I can't go there because I can only have 1 person, outside of the home. But I think here it's 1 person. Is it 1 person only, or is it 1 person?
It's just not 1 non-resident employee.
1 non-resident. Okay. Yeah. As opposed to 3. That's a bit, that's a difference. Do you think that it would make enough of a difference? Is that something that we need to maybe present to the Board of Selectmen and have that changed?
I mean, my thought on the
Have that changed.
Is as long as, there's some lines in there. I'm just looking at what John sent over at our September meeting that kind of came out of the bylaws. I would almost not limit at all how many non-residents you can have. And I think a lot of the other things kind of control it, that you don't have, you don't have a sign that's too big. You don't have any level of noise that would be a nuisance to other neighbors. You don't have any smells that would be a nuisance to other neighbors. But if you have enough parking in your driveway, to have all of your employees, not showing up, on the street or anything like that, I almost would say don't limit it at all. But
Katie, what do you think about that?
Well,
what?
Yeah, trust me, it's been a very long couple days. You have no idea. So I'm just trying to like wrap my head around things. So for employees, I mean, most home-based businesses aren't going to have a whole hell of a lot if you're working out of your house. I
That's
mean, I can't even, I mean, one I think is kind of, I do think that one is a little bit stringent.
Yeah.
And granted, your home base is usually, I think it's what, 20%, I think you're allowed for
It
the
is
business size out of
20.
your house. Yeah. So, I mean, it's
Yes.
not anything, but to only have like one, like say you have somebody that's working, you know, the phones and whatnot. And I mean, even at, and granted, this isn't a home-based business, but like the bus depot, uh, uh, JP McCarthy over there and Sons, even in that little shack that their offices, there's usually like 3 or 4 people in there. And I understand it's not a
Sure.
home-based, but there's like 3 or 4 people, you know, like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
one, fine, very, I think one's too few. And I don't know, like, not if we don't cap it. I understand what Taryn's saying completely, though, because driveway space and things like that will, not to mention 20% of your business, like
Only
out of your
20% is going to cap it by
Yeah.
itself with the amount of space you
yeah.
need.
I feel like it's going to like cap itself. I don't feel one for some people would be sufficient. You know, yeah.
And we're I agree with that, and I agree that, you know, most of the businesses are small, but I'm thinking about for the future as well, right? So if we do grow these businesses, more and more people would, you know, be inquiring about it. And I think that if we were able to say that there was, you know, more than one employee allowed, that at that point would, you know, would make a difference.
I mean, I would even
Maybe not at the
a chiropractor's office. You know, if somebody wanted to run a chiropractor's office out of their home and they've got a receptionist, and then they grow to the point where they add a massage therapist, well, now they're not allowed to.
Yeah.
Right.
I do believe there should be some number though, because I can see like for future somebody buying a big monster or building a big monster house, you know, and specifically to put a business in it. And it's like a catch-22. Well, the driveway's big enough to hold 12 cars and it's 20% of my house. My house is massive, you know? So just for a long, like one of those, so we don't like fall in that trap. I do think there should be a number associated to it. What the number should be, I'm not 100% sure on, but I do feel like there should be a number. I don't feel one is sufficient though.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
I agree. I think
I
one
agree.
is too stringent.
It is. I mean, so far, that hasn't been a complaint. You know, I haven't heard about any complaints, but then we also have a lot of businesses that aren't registered. So, you know, maybe they're not being vocal about it. But I sure would, even if right now the majority of businesses don't need more than one non-resident working there. As I was saying, if it builds up, you know, well enough, there'll be a time where that will be necessary. So you might want to look into having that changed.
Yeah, because I remember going to when I was a child, my doctor's office was out of his house. And I remember there was the receptionist, there was his nurse, sometimes 2 nurses. He was a pediatrician. So, you know, when you give kids shots, you usually need 2 nurses holding, you know, so there was like 2 nurses, a receptionist, and him. So that would be 4 people. His offices weren't that big. His house wasn't that big, but
Right.
that would be 4 people. So in other words, that he wouldn't have been allowed to have his doctor's office at his house in town, not here anyway.
Okay.
You know?
Yes.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think looking at the other, you know, the other pieces of the what it currently is. Looks like Susan just signed on to this. Hi, Susan. Looking at what it currently is, if I can find it. Oh, I had it here.
Well, I have a quick question.
Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is, I mean, right now, that's kind of what John had emailed us.
That's right. Yep.
Which I think, did everybody get a copy of that?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, I did. Yes, I did.
No. Oh, yes, I did. It went to the, one of my other accounts.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm looking at that. I mean, it even specifies it has to be a single family residential structure. It's specifying, you know, the amount of square feet in the home. It's specifying, you know, you can't have shipments by heavy trucks, no noise or
Right.
odors, vibrations, flares, fumes, electrical interference, and it has to have sufficient off-street parking space available. And so, I mean, I think all of that in a lot of ways, actually, I mean, I think in a lot of ways that kind of limits what you can or can't do. I think I don't disagree having a number, you know, it could be 10, you know, so then all of a sudden you're, you know, protecting for somebody coming in, just opening a call center in their basement or something. But still, I think all of those things, my perspective is, I think all the other things that are defining it define what would be classified as nuisances to the neighbors. I don't think having 10 people, as long as it's not, you know, noisy and producing odors, and there's not, you know, there's sufficient parking, whatever that's deemed as, that it wouldn't be a nuisance to the neighbors at that point. You know, if you had a large enough house, you had a large enough driveway and enough space away from neighbors, would it matter if you were running a call center in the basement?
Okay. Peter, do you have any thoughts on it?
My only thought is, well, let's say somebody did want to come in and start a home business and they needed 3 employees that, well, let's say 3 total, including themselves, which would make it 2 non-residents. And we're only limited to 1 non-resident, correct?
Yes.
Can't they file an appeal with, it's not a zoning appeal. What kind of appeal would it be? With the town planning? Is it a planning board appeal? Or who governs the home business?
Well,
follow me?
When you say governs, I mean, it goes to the, not planning. Doesn't it go to Roland? Building inspector?
No, Roland never came out to our house.
I think it's,
Well, apparently,
well, actually, yeah. So all home businesses are subject to the approval from the building inspector.
from Roland, yeah, absolutely. They are, every one of them. We go to Lori for the application and like that, and then the permits and whatever, but it's Roland's, you know, he has the final word.
At least that's what it says on the town website, is that they're all all home businesses are subject to approval from the building inspector.
Yeah, but does the building inspector have the ability to change the quantity of the employees in the business?
I don't know that. That might have to be something, because I think this particular law is under zoning. So I would think it might be something you'd have to do an appeal to the zoning. I think the building inspector would just be saying, does this meet the town bylaws? Yes or no? And if he says, you know, no, then I would think he doesn't have the right.
So then that leads me to, I mean, if we recognize this as a, you know, a possible, you know, better way to do things, okay, why would we not pursue that and have that bylaw changed, okay, rather than
Whitney, a bylaw change has to go to town meeting and be voted on by the public.
Oh, okay. Well, whoever we would go to have this changed, okay, why wouldn't we do that? Why would we wait for businesses to have to appeal when we can certainly bring it up and see if we can get it changed? Why would we make them have to go through it?
I'm guessing it's like the same kind of process that we started and then the planning board went through with the sign bylaw. So in other words, they have to tweak it get it proper, and then it has to have, don't, we have to double check on this, but I'm guessing it's the same thing. Would be, they'd have to have a public a hearing. It would have to go, I'm guessing it'd go back to the planning board to, if we, the same thing with like an overlay district, the same thing with the sign bylaw. We can come up with the idea, we can write what we think, and then we kick it over to them. I'm assuming. And
Okay.
then they tweak it and whatever and have their public hearing and whatnot before it can go in front of the town meeting.
Okay. Okay. Well, what do you think? I mean, do you think that we should, see about getting that passed as opposed to having our home businesses have to do these appeals? I mean, I would think after a couple of them, when the different business owners talk to each other, they might say, how come, they don't just change the law? So,
Yeah. Why don't we just go to Rutland?
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I think, what was it in Rutland too? I'd be curious for the other towns. Was it 20% of your home, or was it more
I
as well?
I think
I
it
thought
was,
it was 30.
what's that? What?
I thought it might have been 30 in Rutland.
It is larger than what we
Yeah.
have. It is more percentage.
So I think those might be the two things, is say, do we propose an increase in the amount of square footage, the percentage of the house that could be used, and do we propose, increasing the amount of in-home employees to at least be competitive with the surrounding towns, as we're looking at bringing businesses in.
Yeah.
And I do have a correction on what I said, just looking at the town website. I'll actually put it up just so you can see it. It's the building commissioner. Could you guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
So it says home businesses, it's kind of towards the bottom here. Home businesses are subject to approval by the building commissioner, not the inspector. The building commissioner is what it says on under business certificates on the Town of Hubbardston website.
Okay.
Who is our building commissioner? Roland? No. Katie, do you know the answer to that?
Actually, it might be. Who knows?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Because that's what Mallory explained. That's what Mallory told me on the phone a couple of weeks
Yeah.
ago, and that's why I raised this with you, with Ryan, and that's my understanding of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Roland wears like a bunch of hats. You know what I mean?
Yes,
like,
he does.
kind of falls under all that stuff. But it's not like they come out and inspect. I mean, because most of it's like cookie cutter kind of stuff that go house, unless you're trying to do something weird that no one's ever seen and there's questions, then yeah, they will probably come out here and, go out to your house and poke around. But they don't usually go to like people's houses, because most people's in-home businesses, are like some kind of office-y thing, or it falls under, a cookie cutter kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
I don't know. I'm not sure what would actually cause them to go. I mean, maybe if you had a doctor's or something like that, maybe then that would trigger, I'm not totally sure what would trigger an actual inspection, if there is anything that actually triggers an inspection in that at all.
Yeah, my only
Right.
thought when I was looking into it is if there's anything that would end up being different, that building codes would be different for that particular business, where, maybe the building code for, if you're going to run a restaurant out of the first floor of your home or something like that, building codes might be different, and they'd want to make sure that, everything's up to code as far as running that particular kind of business.
Yeah, so like a kitchen inspection and stuff like that to make sure that.
Sure.
Yeah. Do you have a grease trap if you're going to run a, if you're going to run a
Well,
restaurant?
that falls for the Board of Health, and so yeah,
Correct.
but we definitely, and they kind of, they supersede a lot of other stuff.
But I like the idea of, I think looking at Rutland, looking at some of the other towns, I mean, I think increasing the number of, obviously it's proposing an increase, I guess, to the Board of Selectmen, and then sign off from there would probably like Katie said, go to planning board and other people like the other bylaws. But I think proposing
Right.
increase the number of in-home employees and proposing that we increase the percentage of the residents that could be used to at least
Right.
be competitive with what the other towns have.
Okay.
You can attract
Okay.
Hubbardston and not just say, oh, I'll just go to Rutland instead.
Right. Exactly.
And it doesn't
Exactly.
necessarily, like the same thing with the overlay district, guidelines. These don't have to be necessarily the town right next door, because there might be actually the planning board a while back, it's not the current planning board, but a while back the planning board did some statistic analysis with towns in Massachusetts, and it actually could be very useful for this kind of stuff. So a lot of the towns were like gauged to like who's like, so basically it broke down the whole state on what towns are most like us, what do we want to achieve to, and what do we not want to be. You know what I mean? So the towns that we might want to achieve to throughout the state of Massachusetts might not necessarily be next door, but they may have something in their bylaws or something that could be useful to us. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it doesn't, like these kinds of things, whether it's an overlay district or, like you said, like with Rutland and stuff, doesn't necessarily have to be Rutland's. It could be anywhere from the state, for their
Yes.
bylaw. It's something that would make sense. And we might even have to merge, a little bit from this one, a little bit to that one to make sense town to
Yeah.
town. So.
Right. Well, that works. You know what? That can work just, really well, because I know that with the report on the commercial overlays, when you and I discussed it, that we were going to have to expand the search since, the surrounding towns didn't offer much. Okay. So
getting
while
that survey might do you guys a world of good to
Oh, yeah.
see what, and it was on the planning board, and I want to say, I don't think Alice was on it yet. So I'm talking a couple years ago. I want to say Robinson was still on there, and I
Okay.
think Bradco was still on there.
Okay.
I'm not 100%. You're talking a few years ago, but it broke down out of all the states. Out of all the towns in the state, and it kind of it made a nice little. I wonder if Mallory could find it.
Okay.
Board. She's gonna love it.
What do you think the title? What do you think the title of that might be?
Oh,
A comparative?
No, it was. I can't remember.
Okay.
I can't remember, but it was and I want to say,
come on. No.
Bradco's son-in-law, Jared, I think his name is, had
Yes.
stuff to do with that as well. Or that might have been a different survey. There was a couple surveys that were going around. One was through financing and one was through towns to towns. Alice might have had something to do with it later, using it to like some of its potential in the beginning when she first got on the board too. So Alice may know what I'm referring to.
Okay. And it specifically spoke about home businesses or not?
Well, no, it was comparing the towns to each other to see where we fit in, like in a grouping for not only population, but everything. There was like a lot of different factors. There was population, there was dollar amounts on, like the annual incomes and things like that. There was a lot of different variables, and how much businesses we had and compared to others, and where we were and where we wanted to go, because
Okay.
you don't necessarily want to be the town right next door. You may
Sure.
want to be a town that's more like across the state that would like, let's strive to be that, rather than the town right next door. Because we don't want to
Sure.
be Gardner. We don't want to be
Okay.
Gardner. We don't industrial,
No.
So Rutland is
Okay. And so,
it's not a bad one to look at.
no. Let me ask you then, do you want us to continue or to expand our search on the other commercial overlays?
I think you're gonna have to, because I don't think there's gonna
Okay.
be one near, if there's nothing on any of the books in the surrounding towns, I mean, there's nothing you can do. They don't have one. So
Okay, so then,
I would
and the
really
reason I'm asking is,
Google it. I would actually Google it and see what pops
Yeah.
up.
all right, the reason that I'm asking is because if we're gonna continue on that search, we might as well at the same time look at what the other towns are doing with their home businesses as far as square footage and amount of employees, right?
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. Okay, so, you know, I don't know where we want to expand it to, or how we want, I don't think that we could decide that now, but I think, you know, maybe just over the next couple of days, we all communicate and, you know, pick different areas and just start looking into, you know, various towns around those areas and see what we come up with. And we'll put it on the agenda for our next meeting. Does that sound okay with everybody?
Yes.
Okay. So in other words, also, I'm thinking, Katie, let me just clarify this. We don't necessarily have to stick with Worcester County. Am I correct?
No, you might find one in the
Okay.
Berkshires that matches up beautifully,
That's
or
what I was thinking.
one,
Exactly. Sure.
who knows,
Okay.
you know?
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Everybody pick a town or two.
Or a county, you know.
Yeah, okay, and we'll bring that. Why not? Okay, that's great. All right, so there we go. Okay, so our next item on the agenda is about the Economic Development Committee survey to residents. Let me just hang on a second. Well, okay, this will come up in this about the signage. I'm gonna read to you. Ryan has invited us to include a couple of questions on the survey that's going out. And some of them have already been included in is that the finalized? No, not quite, because we do have an opportunity to add a couple of more questions to it. So I'm going to give you a couple of samples of what is included in it already. And here we go. So tell us what you think about Economic Development Committee in town, economic development in the town. Hubbardston businesses have asked the Economic Development Committee to support larger, more visible signs to help advertise their businesses and attract customers. Would you support changing the town's bylaws to allow businesses to have larger, more visible signs? And they have a choice of yes or no. Next question would be, some communities allow businesses to have backlit or electronic signs to help attract customers. This signage would be restricted to zoning areas where businesses are allowed to advertise. Currently, Hubbardston zoning bylaws do not allow for this type of signage. Please indicate which of the following you would be willing to support. And there's a multiple choice. Businesses to have backlit, to have electric, to have both, to have either, or only either with significant restrictions and like that. How many times a week do you purchase services from Hubbardston businesses, including food? And then is it multiple choice, less than once a week, 2 to 3 times a week, more than 5 times a week? And there's a couple of others. So I'm reading these to you to give you some samples of the kind of questions that we might want to include in the survey. And I'd like everybody to think of some more questions that they might want to include in the survey. We don't have that much time at all for it. In fact, I promised Ryan that we would come in with some definitive questions no later than Friday. So I'd like everybody, if you want to talk about it now, we can. If you want to just take some time and think about some questions that might be germane, then you can send me those questions via email. Katie, you look like you're wanting to say something.
I know, I'm just waiting for you.
Okay, well, also, I want to hang on a sec. I want to say to you that we need to talk to you. We need some clarification from you about signage. We know that. We've been apprised of that.
Okay, so yeah, the signage questions, and I said this to Ryan when I was in the offices today. I said those 2 questions, I'm fearful of them being on and I'm not fearful. I'm worried about the way that you're asking and what you're asking being on a survey. And this is the reasons why. We started that sign bylaw, and the planning board took it and ran with it and fixed it and got it all ready to go, but it hasn't been voted on yet. It's supposed to be getting, hopefully, if everything works this time, go to town meeting in June. And it is redoing the sign bylaw. Now, by asking those questions, first of all, I worry that people will get confused that that is what we are presenting, and that they might shoot down changing the one that's super, Jesus, it's like not even good. It's just, it reads so horribly that we have right now. So confusing to the one that is the planning board fixed, and it makes sense and it works and it's better. But also I worry, like, not only do I worry that they'll get confused, but I also worry that they'll shoot it down because they're fearful. A lot of people have a thing about lighted signs, and and the ones that are against, and granted, I feel for the businesses. I don't want to shoot myself in the foot here because I understand what the businesses are saying, but the ones that are very against the lighted signs are very against the lighted signs. Okay. Like, it's not even like in their mind. It is no. So that's the only part. And I don't want to start over from square one either and have to start pushing this again with changing it, because then it gets muddled and confused. So that's what I worry about, because we did, all this work went into that, and the planning board did so much work to get it proper that I worry that either it's got to go back to the drawing board because people want goddamn lighted signs, or it will get hosed at the meeting because people will be confused thinking that there's lighted signs in there. There's not. So that is my concern with those signs questions on there. So I don't know if they can either be reworded or if they should even be on there at all. And I brought that to Ryan. He's like, well, do you want them removed? I said, I don't know. I don't know if I want them removed or if I think, in my opinion, they should be reworded. I worry that it'll be confusing because that's not what the bylaw that's going to go up in June has anything to do with.
Reflects. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? I don't want to confuse people and freak people out for no reason whatsoever.
Okay. So
With that.
but it sounds like you don't have any suggestions about how we could reword it. I mean, it is coming from the EDC, so we need to be involved in that decision.
I almost think, the thing about the lighted signs, if the new bylaw that we're trying to roll out in June, for a town vote doesn't have anything to do with lighted signs, then maybe we just take anything about lighted signs off of the survey for right now and wait until after June. And then if we do another survey, we put that on there. Because if people come back either way, if they say no, and then we roll out the sign bylaw in June for a vote, I think it's I agree, cause some confusion. If all of a sudden people say, yes, we're all for, illuminated signs or backlit signs or whatever else, it's going to cause us to have to go back to the drawing board and say, hey, actually, a lot of people are okay with lit signs. So now do we need to go through the entire process for getting it all cleaned up again?
Right.
Might be better to just get the cleaned up bylaw through first, and then look at amending that in the future to include or not include lit signs. It seems like asking it right now is just going to create more confusion. And
it might be. Katie, let me ask you, if we eliminated our questions about the signs, there are no other, it's not under any other category, correct? It's not anywhere else on the survey.
There was two questions about signs. The one that Ryan gave to the select board the other day in our packets.
Okay.
So those two questions.
They both fall under EDC.
Yeah, he went through and did. Yeah, he with like a basic rundown. He had stuff he wanted to ask, and then some people did give him stuff, I think, already. So
What
We
was
just hadn't.
Can you read the first question again, Whitney? Because the first
Sure.
one didn't have anything to do with illuminated signs or backlit signs, right?
No, it didn't. Hang on just a sec. Hold on one second.
That one I didn't really
Okay.
love the wording of it because it only gave a yes or a no and nothing else. So it almost is kind of like it wasn't allowing
Right, right.
people to be open to it. You know, when you read the first one originally, I was kind of thinking like maybe it needs to be multiple choice, not just a yes or a no.
Right, right. You're breaking up a little, to me you are. Hang on just a minute. I am going to that section. Okay. 5 biggest problems. I wonder if we were under 4. Let's see. Nope. Just give me a moment.
They've already been eliminated.
Might be.
Touche.
What did you do, Katie?
I broke it. I broke it.
Okay. Okay. Here's the question. Hubbardston businesses have asked the EDC to support larger, more visible signs to help advertise their businesses and attract customers. Would you support changing the town's bylaws to allow businesses to have larger, more visible signs? And that's yes or no.
I think that
Okay, and then the
will
next
cause
question,
confusion with the current bylaw that's coming up in June.
I think so
Just
too,
because
to
the
be honest.
wording of it,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
and
it's gonna-
here's the other thing. Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was just gonna say, I think it will cause a lot of confusion to people because I think they're gonna think that that's what they're agreeing to is what is gonna be proposed in June, and then it's gonna come up in June, and they're gonna say, well, I already submitted an answer, and the wording of it, I think will be confusing.
I agree. I do agree. And I also think that, when we say, kind of that we're asking to go, not against, but to change the current bylaws, I think when people hear that, they think, oh, that's a whole kind of rigmarole. We've got a bylaw, I mean, Katie, is that right? I mean, is that what people sometimes think that, why change the bylaw? That just sounds like a lot of work, a lot of whatever. We've already made decisions.
Yeah, no, I don't think people aren't afraid of changing bylaws because I feel like they're used to that. Bylaws change because time moves on and things change. The
Yeah,
thing
but for
is
part, haven't they already changed it once or twice?
No, that's like
Oh,
the
no.
same bylaw been there for like eons. That's why it's horrible. It's not, no, it was written in a different era, and now
Okay.
and the sign bylaw that is going, hopefully will make it to June, makes everything very uniform. So that way, and it's very clear and concise. There's no questions on what you can and can't have for a business. You know what I mean? It makes it, there's specific, sizes and things like that. So that way the town will look uniform with depending on what you're in, so in other words, like Breezy Hill will have a specific, sign size that they can put for their ladder signs. They have it under ladder signs, so, and like you can have of those LED, like the lottery and we sell beer and whatever in your windows, you know what I mean? It's a specific number. So that way it's not flooded and tacky and everybody's doing their own thing and it's all over the place and crazy. Either you can't figure out what the hell you can put and what you can't put,
Okay.
So.
And that current one was written when?
I want to say the one that's the one that's on the books right now. I want to say probably
the one. Okay, no, but the one that you're in favor of, the one that you feel is very succinct, very descriptive. Was that?
Last summer.
Okay.
The one
Yeah,
that
okay, I thought,
yeah, it was supposed to go in June last year, but because of
Right.
Corona, they didn't want to feel like the town was trying to jam something through, with low
Yeah.
numbers to try to jam it through. And then it was going to go for the fall, our special town meeting, and for the hearing beforehand, it was like at the last day that they could possibly have an open hearing, and they didn't have a quorum. So therefore,
Gotcha.
it failed. Can't put
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
That's right.
Now
Okay.
it's going to go through June, and they're going to start doing their open hearings. I want to say they're going to start looking at that to do in February or so. So that way, it's got plenty of time just in case there's any hiccups. It will make
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
And that
I
was
almost think asking that question is almost preempting it's almost like we're trying to preempt that town meeting, and I don't think that's necessarily going to come across right, because the new bylaw, people are going to be able to see it all spelled out and see that there's dimensions and sizes and limitations. And I think you just put out there with a question saying, do you support larger, more visible signs? Well, if it's just a yes or no, of course I'm going to say no. I don't want to just open it up for, every business to put a billboard outside of their business. When I picture
Right.
larger, more visible, and that's all that's in there, those are the only two descriptive words, is larger, more visible. I picture a billboard in my head. Obviously that's not what we're looking for, but of course I'm going to answer no to that. I mean, I think if we're going to leave it at all, I think it's got to be a multiple choice with something that says, with restrictions or, something along that lines. But
Yeah. And Katie, that was based on a survey as well?
What?
The new bylaws, I mean, the current that for the signs, was that based from a
No,
survey?
No, that started with when I was meeting with Todd originally, that our signs for our businesses sucked. And
I remember that.
the-
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's where it started, and Todd did his Todd thing and pulled from somebody else's hat, his Todd.
He copied and
And
pasted and got the,
Yeah, but the one that he did pull, the planning board felt it wasn't written very well. It was better than the one we had, but it still wasn't written very well, and it wasn't very descriptive. So they threw that out, and they started from ground and built their own, and it actually is a billion times better. And it spells everything out. I mean, I understand exactly what I could put no matter what, and you're talking to somebody dyslexic and hates doing things like that. And, like I'll skim through stuff. I'll be like, yeah, it's great. Just put a sign up,
yeah.
Like what I could physically put depending on what I had for a business. It's not all lawyery and like all over the place and just too many big words for no reason whatsoever other than to sound official, yeah. So it makes sense. I'm pretty sure it's still on the town website.
What's that?
I'm pretty sure it's still on the town website, under planning board. You can look at it. At least I think it was. I don't know whether it still is.
Okay, anybody have any thoughts on what Katie just was very descriptive about?
Nope.
yeah, I would just say if
All
we're
right.
if we're gonna leave that question, I think we need to say something, maybe add some verbiage to, larger, more visible signs with limitation, per an upcoming bylaw or something like that. Do you support, or, at least in a multiple choice, instead of just yes, no, I support or I don't support, it's, yes, I support it, no, I don't support it, yes, I support it with, limitations or something.
Either that, or what about, do you support the bylaw, basically something about, do you support the town changing the sign bylaw to be more business friendly?
I like that a lot better. I think, and I think that could really encapsulate. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good lead in even to the illuminated signs.
Well,
So
because it's the same.
I think it balances.
Mhm.
I think it balances saying, do you support the town changing the current sign bylaw to be more business friendly? And then I think if you have another question that says, would you support illuminated signs? I think it's at least giving people the option to say, yes, I would support a new bylaw, but no, I don't really like the illuminated signs. And, versus just saying no to both.
Okay, and so I'm going to just play devil's advocate. Do you think that people are going to question just what the heck does business friendly mean? Do we need to be more descriptive about what business friendly would, because I like that term because that's what we're about, right? But I just, I wonder how many people will question, well, what do you mean by business friendly? What, I need to know more than that. And how much more, and so do we include that?
A unified, how about a user-friendly user-friendly sign bylaw so businesses can understand, something to that effect. You know what I mean?
Okay, I do, but I think we're going to be hit with the same thing. I think we have to be descriptive, and the descriptive can be in the, in the, like, say, multiple choice, not multiple choice, but you could bullet it, what that would entail. Okay, what the, business friendly or user friendly would be. I'm just concerned that they're not going to understand what we're getting at. And if we need to be more descriptive, then we should do it now. But I could be wrong.
No, I think I do
Love-
agree that it should be more descriptive. I worry that we shoot ourselves in the foot and we scare people, and then come town meeting.
Well, that's why. Listen, I feel that, either take it out completely, the question, okay, or change it to what we're talking about being more business friendly, because I definitely like that phrasing. So let's then think about the, or a way to describe that. We could do it in bullets. We could do it as an IE or whatever. Let's just go through, a few of the high points of it that would give them a description of what we mean by user friendly or business friendly. Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
then you could say, i.e., larger,
Yeah.
That's what I
more visible, more an easier to understand bylaw. I mean, I think you could have a couple of those.
yeah, uniform signs throughout the town. So, for sizing purposes, something to that effect. So that way, like one sign, one storefront doesn't do this big monster sign, and the other storefront, has this little tiny itty bitty one. It's a little bit more.
Okay.
And granted, you can
So
still
IE,
tiny one in front of your business, but why would you? You know what I mean?
and no, so just, no bigger than. So, okay, that's one of the IEs, uniform signs throughout the town. What would be another?
I would
Well,
say
it's not-
more visible.
Not uniform signs, it's uniform sizes. Sizing.
Uniform size.
Sizing.
Okay. Okay.
I would say more visible. I don't think more visible is a bad phrase. I think larger might scare people, but I think more visible might be an okay. Uniform sizing, more visible.
Yeah. And user friendly.
Or
This-
easy to understand bylaw.
Yes.
Uniform sizing, more visible, easy to understand bylaw.
Okay. Do you think that people might think that more visible would mean bigger and kind of in your face? I'm just asking.
I think if uniform sizing comes first,
Here's
I think if it says uniform sizing, more visible, I think it kind of gives that counterbalance maybe.
Okay.
Do you disagree, Peter?
I just think more visible means larger.
Sure.
That's what I'm
If you're-
saying. That's what I'm
As a
thinking.
homeowner, as a homeowner, if I was reading that more visible means bigger.
Or
That's what I meant
illuminated.
by in your
or
face,
illuminated.
and maybe
Or
And maybe
illuminated
even-
also.
or closer to the street and hanging out over, and closer to driveways and that kind of driveways. Yeah. So that's why I wanted to be a little more specific about the more visible.
Yeah, so maybe you just say uniform sizing and easy to understand bylaw, and you just leave those two on there. Because uniform sizing, it's just, it could be bigger, it could be smaller, but it's uniform,
What if we said something like more reader friendly? That doesn't say too large or anything. That could actually be more of a, just kind of an easy, easy to look at, all the, same background or whatever. And
Yeah. But it's not that the bylaw does not say anything about that. You can still use whatever font you want and things like that.
Sure.
So that into the bylaw.
yeah, but they don't all, I'm not saying they all have to be the same. I'm just saying that, when it kind of is phrased that way, it has maybe a genteel,
Yeah, but are you trying to describe the bylaw that's coming up, or are you? Because that's
Yeah.
not what's in it. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So then just, what do you think about the more visible? Should we keep that in or should we take that out? That word visible, more,
Outski.
Yeah,
I'd take it
because
out.
I would take it out.
I don't feel it'll be more visible anyway. I feel like it's an easier read for people. It's more user friendly, and it uniforms things so that way everyone knows what they can and can't have, rather than getting all confusing.
Why
Okay.
can't the question be, are you for or against improving the signage in the town to correspond with the current bylaw? Or projected bylaw,
Or the
whatever,
proposed bylaw.
or proposed.
Because
Say that
technically it hasn't been proposed yet.
Okay,
Okay.
so we'd have to go with current.
oh
Are you-
yeah, no.
Are you
no,
for or
no,
against
that's
improving the current sign bylaw?
Cause
To make it
Yeah.
more user friendly.
Right.
Are you for or against improving the current sign bylaw to make it more user friendly?
Would you like to see the current bylaws updated to the 21st century?
I
All
like
right,
that
could
a lot better, Peter.
say that again. Are you for or against improving the current sign law, the current sign?
Bylaw to make it more user friendly,
Okay, well, that's open-ended, but okay.
business friendly.
Or to bring it up to current specs within the state, you know what I mean? It just, I don't know. I was just trying to make it easier.
Yeah, no, I understand where you're going with it. It makes
Yeah.
you a lot of sense, Peter.
Yeah.
Or just to make,
Well,
I also think, Peter, what you said helps to prepare voters for the town meeting and the updated,
Correct.
change in the bylaw. I like how you put that
Yes.
because I think
So they
that,
don't seem shocked or
Good.
shell
Right.
shocked.
good thought. Yeah, Danielle, you're right on. Yep.
Because that's the whole thing. You want to start preparing people and getting the word out there, but you don't want to scare the hell out of them thinking there's going to be neon lights everywhere and flashing strobes and billboards.
Right.
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 Sure.
At the same time, we need to kind of update this because it's like, ugh, yeah.
yeah, what if you just said, are you for or against improving the current sign bylaw to make it easier to understand?
Well, what do you make it easier to understand, the bylaw or the signs?
The sign bylaw.
The sign bylaw itself. If you go look at the sign bylaw we have now, it is
Yeah.
difficult. It is
Okay,
difficult.
well, I'm gonna say, what, then I think that's right. Are you for or against improving the current sign bylaw to make it more,
To make it easier to understand.
User friendly.
I think that might scare people, like, what? That sounds like a a tech thing. Easier to understand. Okay, that's good.
And then it can be a yes or a no.
Right.
Right.
And I almost
Okay.
think you should still leave I think you should leave a third option, yes, no, or like I don't care. Not that would be it, but like what's a
Need
third?
more info. Need more info.
Need more info. I think actually need more info would be good, because then that would again prepare people for the meeting coming up, where they feel like, oh, we asked for more information on this and now it's coming up at a town meeting.
Yeah, looks to God's ears.
Yeah, and that would prepare people to come up with questions. If they go to
Yeah.
town meeting and, they remember this question, so, oh, I needed more information, it could prepare them.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, no, need more info.
Okay. Okay, all right, I like that. So that first question is going to be, Hubbardson businesses have asked about, to support larger, now, so,
Get rid of that whole preemptive thing about larger signs. Get rid of that. Don't even put
Yeah.
it in.
Just leave it as a heading of economic development. And then
Yeah.
are you for or against?
okay, and
Yeah,
so take
yeah.
out would we support larger, more visible signs, and take out the signs would be restricted to zoning areas where businesses are allowed to advertise, and then the choice of backlit versus electronic.
I'd get rid
Allow
of
both.
all of it.
So take both of them out and replace the two of them with this one.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Okay.
How about,
we still keep sorry, go ahead, Peter.
can we stick another question on there about the amount of non-resident employees you can have in a home business? Can we put maybe
There you
stick a
go.
question in there about that? Increasing it?
And what about, you could also do something about asking, do you think the 20% minimum should be raised to 30? You
Right.
could do something like, well, we don't
Right.
have to stick to sign, kind of,
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to add that in as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we're taking 2 out, putting 2 in. Then it goes to how many times a week do you purchase services from Hubbardson businesses? And would you support creating a town center overlay that would allow for certain businesses to be allowed along Route 68? And that's the end.
I told,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
it's not a town center overlay. It's a commercial district overlay.
Okay, you said that to who?
Well, because it's not a town center overlay, because you're not just putting it in the town center. You're
Right.
doing,
But who did you say that to?
I'm sorry, what?
Who did you say that to?
Ryan.
Oh, okay. I thought you were,
That
okay.
That has to get tweaked as well, because it's not a town center overlay. It's a commercial district.
Overlay.
Commercial district overlay. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna, okay, and I'll go in and change that up and send it, him a fresh copy of it. And then we also can add, 1 or 2 more questions. So if you all would like to think about, a couple of questions over the next day and a couple of hours, that would be great. But otherwise, we've got 3 or 4 in there, and that would be great.
Well, do we want to tweak the ones that you added to make sure that they're worded correctly for the adding the how many people and whatever percentage, or no?
Yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, if you want to, if y'all want to, create the, that's fine. Sure.
I would make that 2 questions too. I wouldn't put that into 1 question.
Oh, that is 2 questions. Yeah. Oh, that is. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So how do we want to word them? And does it need a narrative going into it? In other words, rather than just, throw out these 2 questions, maybe to say, the EDC is working, closely to support home businesses. And, would you support the idea of, changing the square footage, blah, blah, blah. And then the next question. But I think maybe there should be a narrative included in it.
Yes, I think there should be a narrative, but I would say something more to the effect. Currently, our bylaw states you are allowed one non-resident employee. Do you think, would you
Okay.
agree, you know, something to the effect, would you agree or would you like some, Yeah.
Would you be opposed?
would you be opposed to
And I
adding?
think what we should, but I think what we should give that the definitive, would you be opposed to 30%? We don't want to just say an increase in the square footage. That might frighten people, okay?
Yeah.
Right.
So, you know, we should make a decision right now, you know, do we want to increase this to 30% of the home or another amount? Anybody?
I would say,
Oh.
yeah, I don't want it too big. I mean, you don't want to allow people to, because then it turns into, it's not their home, it's their business with a place to
Right.
stay. You know?
Yep.
I would just say,
And that
I would
changes.
maybe just say, keep it as is, 30% or 40%, you know, or something, you know, make it a multiple choice, you know, or.
Yeah, and make it multiple choice. Would you be opposed to increasing the square footage of home business-based square footage from 20 to 30%?
Okay, but now,
Well,
but right,
Ready?
a second,
I got
Second-
one. Ready?
wait,
Ready? Hold on. So our current bylaw allows 20% usage for a home-based business. Would you be in favor for and then you give them 20%, 30%, or 40%? You give them, what do you think the percentage should be for a home-based business? And you
okay,
give them those choices.
okay,
So then you hear what they actually think, even though they know you tell them the bylaw says 20%, and then you give them 3 options. Keep it
Right.
at 20. Do you think it should be up to 30, or do you think it should be 40? So you give them multiple choice.
okay. All
I don't know
right,
what do you
And-
think about that.
And same thing with the non-resident employees. Would you like to keep it at 1, have 2, or have 3? Give them a choice.
Yep,
Then
There
you
we
know where
go.
they're coming from.
And with the number of employees, I might do it, you know, 1, you know, under 5, but more than 1, and more than 10 or something. You know, I mean, I might give it a little bit more of a range on that one instead of it being a specific. So then, you know, we kind of see, you know, 1, 2, or 3 doesn't really give us a lot of info.
So,
you put the word 10 in there and you're definitely going to get people to answer less than 5 or 5 to 10.
How about-
You're going to force them at that point.
how about this? Well, no, how about this? You said, you know, the same way you word it, the current bylaw allows 1 non-resident employee, blah, blah, blah. Would, you know,
Right.
which in favor of keep it as 1, allowing between 2 to 5, and then,
Okay.
you know, to 10 for your third
I'm
choice.
just going to, yeah, okay, 5 to, yeah.
But then it gives
Oh
it a
boy,
range.
people are definitely going to check one or the other on that one.
And that's, well, but then,
Yeah.
but then you hear the range, you know what I mean? Like if people are,
Yeah,
if everyone
absolutely.
checks 2 to 5,
Right.
you know what I mean?
But we might also surprise ourselves too, and you might have people that say, you know, and again, I might have one that just says indifferent. You know, I'm indifferent on this. You know, I think you have to allow people to say that. Otherwise, everybody's just going to say, anybody who's indifferent is going to say keep it the same. So I think you have to have that indifferent. You know, keep it at 1, 2 to 5, 6 to 10, or indifferent. And
Or
then,
put a blank spot so they can, or
yeah.
other.
But I think if you don't allow people to say, I'm indifferent on this, I really don't care. I really, you know, it doesn't affect me at all. If you don't allow people to do that, then you're going to have a whole bunch of 1s in there of people that just say status quo, let's not change it because I really don't care.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah. You getting this?
I am. I'm taking notes though at the same
Okay.
time, so.
'Cause I'm just thinking if I was taking a survey and I'm going through, because there's probably what, going to be 50 questions on this?
Altogether, no.
No, I think it was like 30 something.
Yeah, so I mean, if I'm taking a 30 question survey, there's going to be some questions on there that I'm really passionate about and that really matter to me and I want to state my opinion on. There's going to be other questions where I'm just like, you know what, this one really doesn't matter to me, and just for ease of, you know, getting through the survey and just checking off the boxes so that I can you know, give my opinion on what I'm passionate about, I'm just going to check boxes on the ones that I'm not really passionate about. So if I have one that says I'm indifferent about this question, I'll check that.
No, it should say, just instead of other or indifferent, it should say I don't care. You know?
Yeah, I think that's even fine. I think just saying I don't care, you know, I think is fine. I just think
Yeah.
indifferent might be a nicer way to say it. But
Yeah, but what a statement that is, that people would have this in front of them, and rather than really make a decision, you know, just want to pass one or two of these questions. That's just not, you know, that's disappointing to hear. But I'll bet a lot of people do.
I guarantee you that there's going to be 2 or 3 questions on this that aren't, you know, every single resident's not gonna have an opinion on at least 1 or 2
Right.
questions and the whole
Right.
survey.
That's
So why don't you put a choice as not relevant?
Sure.
okay. No,
Well-
because it is relevant.
Well, how about no opinion?
No opinion.
No opinion. That's the same thing.
Okay.
Yep. I think no opinion, because I know, like, even some people, and not to throw like my wife under the bus, she wouldn't mind, but she doesn't like making decisions. If I give her, you know, I want you to make a decision between A, B, and C, that's going to totally stress her out. But if I give her an out and say, you know, what's your opinion on A, B, or C, or do you really not care? You know, at least I'm giving her an out to say, I really don't have an opinion on that. And it's not going to stress her out in the middle of filling out a survey.
Okay. I get that. Sure.
And I would almost
Okay,
put
so
that
you
on
got one-
each of them, you know, yes, no, you know, 20%, 30%, 40%, no opinion, you know, between, you know, 1, 2 to 5, 6 to 10, no opinion.
Right. Yeah, give them an out.
Because then we get to hear, I think there's people that are passionate on both sides, and then there are people that don't have an opinion. We want to rule out the people that don't have an opinion, and we want to know the people that are passionate on both sides. We want to see where they end up landing, what those percentages are.
Right. Right. All right, good. All right, well, I think we've probably put in as many questions as we're allowed, let's say, or, you know, unless anybody can think of anything else that we need to, or, you know, would just be, you know, great idea to, you know, to include in this.
Yeah, I
can't
do.
think of anything else.
How about
Yeah,
the,
go ahead, Peter.
how about the Verbo one or whatever that's called?
Airbnb?
Yeah, see how the town feels
VRBO?
about, yeah. Put a question on there about Airbnb. What do you think not?
Well, what's the question?
Well, I mean, I don't know. What are we looking to do?
Yeah, here's the well, that's true. Okay, but I thought that Ryan had already established that that the town was accepting Airbnb, and it was up to us to talk about taxes and that kind of thing.
Okay,
So,
never mind.
and we do have existing Airbnb rentals happening right now.
We
So
do?
we do. Oh yeah, yeah. There's
Yeah, no,
several.
I'm agreeing. We do.
Yeah.
And
So I don't
ahead.
know if that's kind of a moot point, you know what I mean? Or does it,
Sounds good.
Katie?
Well, no, I'm just trying to figure out what the question Peter wants to ask about them.
I don't know. I was just throwing something out there.
Well,
Are
because
you, are you in support of the town allowing Airbnb? That's gonna be, because what now, what we're gonna end,
oh, that's
yeah,
mute.
what we would end up having to do is shut down some of these houses and residents that are doing it, and I don't know if I wanna
Well,
be responsible for
What
that.
about what about encouraging Airbnbs and VRBOs and home rentals, whatever? Or no? Do
How
you
do you
just want
encourage it?
Did you say
What?
something, Daniel?
which one? Who, me?
I thought
Or-
Danielle said something, but
I
Oh,
was gonna say, I think it could possibly open a big can of worms that we don't want to open.
how so?
And
yeah,
how so, exactly,
Yeah.
how so?
explain.
Well, depending on how the question is put, like, do you support Airbnbs in town? People could interpret that very differently. And I don't want to hurt the existing Airbnbs.
Well, that's what I said a second ago too. We'd have to end up what? We'd end up shutting them down. I mean, I don't want the EDC to.
Well, yeah, no. it
We're
wouldn't-
we're in support of businesses coming to town, and Airbnb is a very reputable. Renting out your home or your rooms in your home can be very reputable, and there's no reason for us to shut down any of the existing ones, unless of course they're doing ridiculous things. Okay, so I think by doing that we would open it up to where we would be forced to shut them down. I'm not in favor of that. I'm not personally in favor of that.
Excellent.
I
Next.
have another like just kind of idea for a question, and this could be opening a whole other can of worms as well, but I'm gonna at least throw it out. Do we have something along the lines? I mean, I don't think anybody is gonna say no to this question, but I think it might give us some ammunition to be coming to the other boards and committees on behalf of the town if we ask it. So I think if we asked a question, something along the lines of, the EDC is working to create a welcoming business guide to create better transparency between all of the departments. Are you in support of the EDC, taking this on as a project for the town? Obviously we have to figure out how to word it, but basically, I don't think anybody would say no, we don't want transparency between committees and boards. But if we get back, 2,000 people that say, yes, we're absolutely for transparency between all the different boards. Now, because of all the responses from the survey, does that give us a little bit more weight when we're going to the other boards and committees to ask for their input for other things that are going to create more transparency? We're coming because of the responses of the residents, not just because we want to do it as a committee.
You're going to get a lot more dirty looks. That's what you're going to get.
If we ask the question, we're going to get dirty looks?
Yeah.
Right.
If you get
yeah.
no, if we get if you get 2,000 responses, then you're going to get a lot of dirty looks from others. Do you follow
Well,
me?
I mean, yeah. Either way, we expect, and I have faith that our departments will provide me with, the information that I've asked them for in a very transparent way. And by the way, because I'll mark this off, it was going to be something I mentioned at the end. I have not gotten a response from any of the department heads that I've sent that small business guide off to. Okay.
Wonderful.
Asking them for their changes, additions, etc. And I did give them a timeline for it, but I thought it was interesting. We haven't gotten a response. That's going to have to come from them. We're just going to push that. I don't care. I should never say I don't care what the residents say, but honestly, if it came back saying, one person saying, yeah, we should do it, I think it's vital that we do it. So, in my
Agreed.
opinion, it's going to get done either way. But if you're thinking that, it could push the envelope with some of the departments, I don't know. I mean, I got more, I'd like to have more faith in them than that. And I do. So that's my thought on it.
Yeah, no, I'm more just thinking, I mean, they have very full plates as well. So I'm not trying to say anything negative about the other departments.
Sure.
but they're trying, just like we are, to prioritize what are the most important things for them to get involved in. And
Right.
with everything that they have that they're getting involved in, I think they're looking for response. I mean, I would think just like we are from this survey to say, this is what the rest of the town wants us working on. This is the direction the town wants us to go. It's supposed to help give all of us a better idea of things that residents are or are not in favor of. And if all of a sudden, you know, if departmental transparency is a big issue for people, does that cause that to go up higher on the priority list for everybody to say, hey, we really probably should work on this, because a lot of people in town are seeing that as a problem. Versus, you know, if it's very low on the response,
I see.
a lot of people in town are not seeing that as a big issue, then that helps us know that it's not the highest priority thing for a lot of the other boards and committees. Even though we keep pushing for it, it just shows us that, you know, it's not as big of an issue as maybe we think it is.
Okay, agreed. But also consider that, you know, part of a big part of the reason why we want this guide to be, you know, transparent and correct and everything is for non-residents, but potential people coming. And so they won't have a choice in this. They won't fill out the survey. They're not here yet. You know what I mean? So that's really, you know, that was very much part of the reason. I think that, you know, that Todd even created this originally. Am I right, Katie? It was really more for incoming businesses than the existing ones. So, so don't want to lose sight of that. What's that?
I think asking that question to a resident wouldn't really make sense. It would make it sound like there's problems in the offices.
Which we don't.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Yep. And again, and for the reason that I just said, you know, the fact that there's really, by comparison, there's very few residents that have a business. There are more residents than businesses. And so we're asking people who have really no anything to do with that, of, you know, of it, to, you know, to have a significant, you know, say in it. And I think a lot of it is geared towards incoming, you know, potential and hopeful incoming residents and businesses.
Yeah, I wouldn't, personally, I don't think that question would sound the way you want it to sound. I don't think it's going to come off the way you want it to sound. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's going to stir the pot. And I wouldn't.
Yeah.
We already have enough pot stirring. We don't need, you know.
Pot? No.
Yeah, no, that's a little different. That's
Yeah.
No pun intended. Or
that's a whole separate.
gives new meaning to Avon calling.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would not want it to come across the wrong way, and I can't think of a positive way to ask the question that would come across the right way. I just figured I'd throw it out there because I didn't know if there would be
I would leave that.
Help us, but
yeah.
Okay. All righty. So let's see. And we're getting on. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So
8 o'clock.
survey. I'm sorry, Peter, go ahead.
8 o'clock.
he's ready for bed.
It is 8 o'clock. Exactly. You know what? We're gonna, you know, I was gonna leave the analytics for another time. That's fine. Because we have a couple of homework assignments between now and the next meeting. And so I think that we should leave that to the next meeting. But one thing that I want to talk about real fast is that Taryn and I were both present for the BOS meeting last night. And we were able to see, Katie, you're probably going to get a chuckle out of this, on the renewals for the business licenses, okay?
Yeah.
And still, there is not a line item for email addresses. So
Or there was,
I'm not sure.
Lori has been getting them. I questioned her. She has been asking.
Okay, good.
The election has gotten her sidelined, and now
Sure.
the election is done. She's got to figure out how she's got to find her PDF that is she can type on and edit her editable one, and she was having a hard time
Correct.
finding it. But yeah, so she was asking for it. if you notice when you go into her office, if anyone actually has to go into the clerk's office, it's pinned to the wall with a highlight on there because I wrote it on there.
Okay.
On there. Like, don't help me. She's like, I know it's on the list. Don't worry. If they come in, I ask them for it. I promise. So she has been doing.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's just
Awesome. Awesome.
on there yet.
So, okay. So we're not going to have to take a vote on asking her to include them. Thank you for letting us know that.
And
That's terrific. And
just to clarify, we're asking for email both on the initial application as well as on the renewal application. Is that correct?
yes.
It's this one in the. You got to refill out the. Yeah. So it's the same form. Yeah, you have to refill out the form, and so you just an email and social media or website, something to that effect on there. Like how else can we find you? So yeah, she's been asking. Trust me, I gave her a love crash of what? It's like I've been asking. I've been busy with the elections.
I mean, I did not want to bring that up. I didn't want to email her about that. I knew, and I thought, but I thought, well, we'll just discuss it. Sure, that'll be great. Before we go, because that's great. We don't have.
I'm gonna tell her you threw her under the bus, Laura, Whitney.
I didn't. I just said we happened to notice. Her name was never mentioned. It was never mentioned. All right, here's something because we don't have to take a vote. So I am gonna throw this in. Okay. Taryn and I had talked over the week about a couple of things, and we thought it might be interesting if our next meet and greet, because we can do them virtually as well. And we thought perhaps we would have a Q&A with some of the department heads and invite businesses to come to that. Any thoughts on something like that for, maybe, our first and only that we've had so far was last September of 2019. So we're a bit overdue. But, we can certainly wait until after the first of the year. But what are your thoughts on something like that for businesses? And we can invite everybody to join in.
It would basically be inviting, it would be specifically geared to business owners, and we would have maybe a panel of, Ryan and maybe Roland and maybe somebody from Board of Health, maybe somebody
Kathy, Board of Health.
And then we would be able to, the thought would, they might even be able to give questions ahead of time, submit questions, and we could provide that to whoever the panelists are going to be ahead of time. So they have time if they need to do any research, whatever. But then it'd be kind of a Q&A time, for business owners to be able to maybe anonymously ask some questions to be able to get to know a little bit more of, where the different departments are coming from.
Have you asked Roland or Kathy about this?
Oh no, we're coming to you first. To everybody first. Don't. I get it.
Oh no.
I'm sorry. I was late on that. I get what you're saying. No, not yet.
You really need to pass that. I would love to see if you can get the two of them on a Q&A.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't want to be a negative Nancy. The two of them, they do their jobs, and don't get me wrong. I just don't feel like that would be a priority on their list of things they would want to do. And I don't want to, I can't say that in like not a good way. You know what I mean? It comes off poorly no matter how I say it, but I just can't.
Sure.
I can't see it happening. I want you to try though, because I want to see it.
I would love to see it also. I think it could be really great, especially if some of those questions would remain, and they could remain anonymous, and they would. And we're not trying to trip anyone up. That's just why we would, present them with some of the questions that they, that are coming at them. Yeah. And I just think it would be a great, a great share of information.
Oh, I think it would.
So
I totally think it would be a great idea.
Okay. What does anybody else think about that? I mean, that at the very least, what I could do is contact some of the department heads and tell them about this and ask them, tell them they're expected there. No.
I think it's a good idea, especially if you have questions anonymously.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, the public is invited to ask questions, live or whatever, for sure. That's
I think
that,
we
that.
can make sure that it's limited. We can make sure that it's limited to business, topics, because it's going to be an EDC business meeting, business Q&A. Public can obviously come.
Well,
We keep the questions, tied to it. And I think by giving whatever the department heads are, by giving them the questions ahead of time, I think helps them feel a little bit more comfortable to know what they're getting into, and that they already have their answers prepared to give.
sure, sure. I mean, I've sat and and been involved in several meetings where some of the department heads have looked towards the administrative people to look up things as we're discussing it. Not everybody has the answers right in front of them, and I wouldn't want anyone to feel like they were being tripped up or or put on the spot. So providing them with the questions first, I think, would be more appealing to them, and therefore maybe more department heads would agree to be part of this.
Yeah. Well, yeah, especially if you have department, like building and board of health, because that can get really tricky, some of the answers. You know what I mean? And yeah, one of those definitely questions should be submitted in advance for those kinds of boards.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the same with
Yep.
like the board and things like that. It's just there's so many minefields, that you can trip up in.
Yes, indeed. And we don't want, that's not the intention at all, not at all. It's just a sharing of information, people getting to ask questions and, and coming together. And we haven't had anything since, now it's, 14 months or 15 months. So I think that's a good idea. And we'll bring that up again at a future meeting, but, the first thing I'll do is go and contact some of the department heads and see about their willingness to participate.
Yeah, and I think
And I'll let Katie know
very
first and foremost.
it gives a very non-obtrusive way for businesses to get to know who some of these people are, and have some face time and be able to say, oh, this person's not so scary. They're really nice. I really like this person, whatever, and just kind of like, oh, okay, this is the person that's going to be coming and inspecting XYZ, if I decided to open this business or that business. I think it.
Yeah, especially because a lot of times your first interaction with meeting people is like, especially these kinds of things, and you're opening a business or you're doing a business or whatever they're inspecting, and they're going to tell you everything you're doing wrong, and it just comes off they're constantly or you keep that, or you have to do it that way, or I'm not signing off on this and whatever, and it's just all, and that's the whole thing is that, and they end up getting a bad rap. You know what I mean?
And if we can create a positive experience first, the first experience that our business owners have with the Board of Health is positive. The first experience our business owners have with the planning board or the building inspector is positive. It makes it easier on them and easier on our businesses ultimately. So. Well, Ms. Chair, are we ready to call the meeting? Did we lose her?
I think she fell asleep.
What's that?
I said,
For
Ms.
me?
Chair, are we ready to call the meeting?
I think we are, but I think, are we all in agreement on let's, trying to make that happen maybe, midwinter, sometime, maybe February or something like that for that to happen, I think would be great.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, because you'd need to advertise to get questions in advance. You know what I mean? So that way you can submit it. That's going to take some time.
Okay. I'm sure it will.
Yeah.
And and so we'll, at our next meeting, we'll discuss it a little further about, contacting the businesses, asking them to present some of those questions and like that. I'm sure they will. Well, that'll remain anonymous, and they can send them in over the course of several months as they come to them, thoughts come to them. So I think that'll be fun. I think it'll be very informative, very helpful. Okay. That's it.
I make a
Would
motion.
anybody like to call
the meeting?
A second.
Second.
Absolutely.
See you later.
There we are. Okay, so we're not having a meeting until January. I wish everyone a Merry Christmas. I'm excited about the start of Light Fight. And
Yep.
Taryn, are you there? Have you got all your stuff going on?
We're getting there.
Yeah, we've got a last minute crew coming on Thursday. I wanted to leave some of the best stuff for last. But Katie, we're real excited about it, and I can't wait to see the results and how many people have
Yeah,
come.
we got-
and
Yeah, we got 28 entries.
Say it again?
So 28 entries.
very nice.
Yep.
Well done. Susan, are you with us? Is Susan still with us?
I see her name.
Yeah, she fell asleep.
She may have. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Oh,
Well,
There
nope.
she is.
okay, yeah, I was having difficulty unmuting.
No problem.
Okay.
okay. Susan, I'm gonna get with you. You know, we'll catch up with you at the next meeting. You know, let us know how things are going and that kind of thing. And in the meanwhile, I'm gonna put you in touch with Taryn, and he will guide you through our Facebook page, and we'll get you going on that. And thank you for attending, for being here.
Okay.
And everybody get out there and see the Light Fight. Go out and have a good time. I'm excited. Katie, well done. Well done. I'm loving it.